At EOS, we work with leadership teams, business owners and their leadership teams to help them get better at a high level, three things that we call vision, traction, and healthy, right? So we start with that. So vision is the sense of getting everybody 100% on the same page with where they're going and how they're going to get there. Traction is about instilling accountability and discipline so that wherever you go in your organization, people are executing on that shared vision. And then healthy is about making that team a cohesive, functional, dare I say, fun-loving team, because we know not all the time, but a lot of times in entrepreneurial organizations, the leadership team isn't. And so we know as goes the leadership team, so goes the rest of the organization, right? And so eventually that trickles down. You have everybody 100% on the same page with where they're going, rowing in the same direction, executing with accountability and discipline, and ultimately building a culture where like people actually enjoy spending time with each other, don't mind going to work. That's the highest level. And then, as I mentioned, what we work with when I go into a client is we focus on 6 components of their business and help them strengthen the 6 of those components. And so those 6 components, just real quickly, are vision, which again about getting everybody on the same page of where we're going. People, right? So making sure you have the right people in the right seats. Data, so really about making sure companies are making decisions for their organization based on objective information rather than thoughts, feelings, emotions, egos that will often drive decision making at smaller entrepreneurial organizations. Issues, right? So we spend a lot of time working on issues and not working on the issues themselves, but teaching, how to actually solve your issues. It's amazing how even really great teams can be really lousy at solving issues, like actually solving the issue at its root. There's a lot of over discussing, kicking the can down the road and not really putting something down to bed. Process is the 5th component. So again, that's about really getting the most important stuff you do done the right and best way every time, right? I mean, that's critical for scalability, for consistency, ultimately for profitability. And then traction is the 6th component. And traction is really about taking that vision we mentioned and kind of pulling that down to the ground and executing day in and day out, right? To make sure you're actually in alignment achieving that vision.
So you are an EOS implementer. I mean, I think we can assume what that means, but exactly what does that mean in terms of how you engage?
I work directly with the leadership teams, and we basically have a schedule of full day sessions. They're kind of spaced out. We do a spaced learning approach, but I'll come in and meet with the team, and it's a little bit more frequent in the beginning, right? We do it about every couple of days over every 30 days we do a session, and that's to kind of learn some of these foundational tools. And then for the most part, we really just do kind of quarterly and annual check-ins, right? And so it's not an everyday kind of thing. It's really just about teaching you these tools, getting you to use these tools. And then, I'm not there in perpetuity, right? I always say, I'm a teacher, a facilitator, and a coach. I'm not a consultant, which I think, and there's nothing wrong with consultants and very valuable, but that's just not what I do. And the reason that is, or what I like about that, is that it makes my work completely industry agnostic, which just makes it very fun for me, right? I mean, I told you, I learned about this working for a consumer marketing analytics SaaS company. I took the knowledge I got there and then, implemented this as a drug and alcohol treatment company, right? I mean, very, very different things, but the principles ring true. And that's, you can go online and look at very quickly find a roster of companies and industries using this, and it's completely agnostic.
Yeah. Is there a size company that you tend to work with? Are there any limits?
There's no limits. I mean, our target, my sweet spot is companies about 10 to 250 employees, right? So our typically privately held, really, as I mentioned before, it's about companies that are willing to be honest and vulnerable with themselves and the people they work with. Got to be really growth oriented, entrepreneurial in spirit. It can work in the nonprofit world. That's not really target. I would say, the nonprofit situation can work if the leadership team at that organization is able to kind of function autonomous. If you have a situation where, you need board approval to change the toner cartridge in the printer, it doesn't really work. And the other main thing around the EOS is, it's not really great for startup per se, and that's because the tools in EOS are really about execution. And so, I've worked at companies very, very early stages where what we're doing today is
Hmm.
completely different 6 months from now, right? So we come to the table with the assumption of you're in the right market and you have the right product or service. Now, I understand, of course, products evolve and there are shifts and things like that. But if one day we're making apple pie and the next day we're doing batting cage construction, it's hard to really to put this system in place because it's not a seminar, it's not a one day thing. It's something you work into the entire culture of your company.